Looking at Bitcoin, it's currently $107,430. In yesterday's video, we were talking about structure. What is structure? Why is it important? And I wanted to just reach out and say a very big thank you to all the people who responded with that question. Well done, everyone. Gianluca had it absolutely correct. CTKS structure creates price waves. And we do the structure before the news. RGX said something important. The price waves on your money chart is dependent on what Bitcoin does and where it goes. And the CTKS structure shows you where the ceilings are and where the floors are as well. We spoke in yesterday's video of a bit of a push up in terms of Bitcoin's price. The video was just there. We've seen that Bitcoin pushed up to around that 108,200 mark. In today's video, I'm going to take you through the structure on Bitcoin, crypto, and a couple of other charts. I'm going to explain what happened in yesterday's trading, and it was a little unusual. Let's run the numbers. Hi everyone, I'm Ken from CryptoTradingKS and the CTKS method. If you're new, a very warm welcome and welcome back CTKS family. My goal is to assist you to become more of a financial and emotional blessing to yourself and those you love, gaining real wealth and positive excellence in the process. Please make sure that you hook into ctksmethod.org. There's a ton of free resources in there, including the cheat sheet. So if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see the free cheat sheet. It's an absolute fantastic tool, and it's absolutely free. In the past 24 hours, we saw the volatility gauge of the S&P 500, or the VIX, come down relatively sharply. This pushed Bitcoin's price up. We saw the yield spike and then decay. That was the 10-year and also the 2-year. We saw the US dollar currency index, the DXY or the DXY, decay substantially. And its best friend, dollar yen, went a similar way, but not with anything of the power of the decay inside the DXY. And we also saw that US oil came up just somewhat. It is starting to base, so basing action in US oil. This is something that you need to keep your eyes on. This is a template from the profiting course. That was row 1 of the cheat sheet. Now let's look into row 2. We saw that junk bonds did a bit of a push up and then a pull back. We know that everything is structurally related. Let's have a look at junk bonds on a deeper level because it's really, really important. Junk is pretty much the opposite of the VIX. When we look at gold, we saw that gold dipped and then has come back to where it was. It's currently trading at 33.33. The euro dollar has been rallying because of the extreme fall off of the DXY, the DXY. Silver has also been rallying. The Aussie dollar and the euro move together, so it's no surprise that the Aussie dollar has been rallying on the DXY's decay. And also, we're seeing very good upward movement in copper. Students of the profiting course, please make sure that you look into week 2. Week 2 covers off all of these charts and explains how to predict tops and bottoms on for example, the DXY, the VIX, dollar yen, the 10, the 2-year. It goes through all of this information. It is really important that you continuously refresh your knowledge. And this template is also from the profiting course. Now, what we're going to do is to look into junk bonds. This is particularly important to understand. The first thing that we can see in terms of junk bonds, it's currently following the normalized positive price path, but something really interesting is happening right now. I'm just going to zoom into this particular shaded area on junk bonds. When you're looking at your CTKS levels, make sure that you look on the 15-minute time frame. That will give you the absolute best signal for trading. Now, if we change back to the 15-minute time frame here, just on TradingView, make sure that you've got auto fit starter to screen and scale price chart only. that will throw your chart into exact dimensions. And then you just pop on the indicator from the service. Now, what we've seen right at this current time is the junk bonds got above a level of structural once resistance and still resistance at 96.75, but it came up to this particular area at 96.78. Now, a lot of people, especially if you don't understand anything about intercorrelation and interconnection, will just not simply look at junk bonds because who the heck cares? Actually, you should care very, very deeply. Junk bonds and the VIX tend to move in opposite directions. So if junk bonds is coming into overhead structural support and has done a structural failure followed by another one, you must pay attention. The key is here, we know that junk bonds is following the normalized positive price path, so it's doing quite well and it does have positive momentum. But if junk starts to weaken too much, everything, I mean everything, is going to suffer. And at least you'll know why. Understanding the components of the cheat sheet is particularly important. This is a row 3 template from the profiting course. So this is the S&P 500, the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the Russell. Also a couple of things just in here to help you out. And the profiting course gives you this particular template. So what we saw in the previous 24 hours is that the S&P 500 came into its structural overhead resistance at 61.04 and rejected down to lower levels of structure. Now, something particularly interesting, the Nasdaq also came into that overhead structural resistance and has been caught by a fairly good level of structural support, and it's interacting very well. One thing is very, very clear. When the Russell lost its structural support, it went down hard, and because it didn't have much in the way of structural support, it just cratered. Structure literally explains why price action does what price action does, and you have the levels and they read to the right, not to the left. The CTKS structure doesn't look backwards, it looks forwards. It is the world's only leading indicator of price, and it is undeniably powerful. Now, what is this showing us? It's showing us that the stock market came into overhead structural resistance and just retraced. Fortunately, there is a degree of structural support, especially on the Nasdaq. Looking into row 4 of the cheat sheet and just using the profiting template, you can also get all these levels from inside the service. I've just turned the CTKS levels off, but they're very, very important to look at. When you're looking at Apple, we saw that the major market indexes came into resistance and then sold off. Here's exactly what that looks like if you were trading or investing in Apple. Also, Tesla is under a lot of duress. Please make sure that you look at the structural levels on Tesla. Microsoft did very well. Microsoft has been incredibly strong of late, and NVDA defied the pack and went up. And we can see that strategy is coming into overhead structural resistance. It literally rebounded from structural support and has made its way up in the past 24 hours to overhead structural resistance. We've seen the structure play in and out of MicroStrategy or strategy incredibly well. Against this backdrop of looking through all the different rows of the cheat sheet before we look at crypto, and we need to do it in that process because crypto is so incredibly volatile. Now, one of the really interesting things is what happened to Bitcoin. We know that the VIX came down, we know that the Dixie or the DXY cratered. The euro dollar absolutely went for it, and the Aussie dollar also. You cannot just read Bitcoin structural levels without looking at total crypto market cap. I'll show you exactly what I mean. It's just a newbie mistake to just look at the structure and say, okay, this explains everything. Total crypto market cap had some very tight structural resistance that caused all of this problem inside Bitcoin's chart. As we talked about yesterday, If we made it through and confirmed this positive fresh air gap, we would make our way up to around that 109 level. We didn't quite get there, but there's a reason for that. And Bitcoin was absorbing most of the flows into the crypto market in the past 24 hours. If you were trading, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. And if you do know what I'm talking about and you have been trading, please pop in the comments, I've been trading. And also let me know what you've been trading as well. If it's outside the service, I'll do my best to provide charts to you so that we can look at the structural levels as well. Now, popping across to total crypto market cap, we can see this structural resistance level has been an absolute pain in the butt for the entire crypto market. That's around literally that $3.25 trillion level. So we did have a bit of a push above it, and then things got a little bit gnarly. The interesting thing was that Bitcoin was absorbing all the flows into the crypto market, and if we just do a bit of an indication here, total crypto market cap was getting hit at different times. It is not a static line because the charts move in differing percentages. It's dynamic, and I talk a lot about this inside the Profiting course. It's very important information that you need to understand. What we're seeing currently is that total crypto market cap is providing the headache across the entire crypto market. And if you were following and have been a student of the Profiting course, you already knew to look at total as well as Bitcoin from a structural perspective. When looking at the Ethereum structural levels, we can see ETH was under a lot of negative momentum. Basically, Bitcoin went up and the alts came down. Why did that occur? Well, the alts had a really good rally when the war or the talk of the ceasefire occurred. But since then, things have shifted and the flows have been going into Bitcoin and coming out of the alts. Just to give you a bit of an indication, as Bitcoin came up like this, we saw the alts bleed down like this. It is literally the crypto market doing a bit of a flight to safety at the moment. Keep in mind what's happening with junk bonds. When we look at the XRP levels, we can see around this 2281, there was overhead structural resistance. Also, overhead structural resistance at that 221.68, which played in several times inside XRP's price momentum. So you know that price is always rebounding between structural resistance and structural support. And we always have that intercorrelation and interconnection between all of the charts. The reason that you look across charts is that XRP will get its momentum from total crypto market cap and Bitcoin structural levels plus its own. So if you're putting money just solely into XRP, please make sure that you know your structure on XRP as well as Bitcoin and total, and you also do the cheat sheet. Structure is vitally important to understand, and you can see this divergence. Bitcoin is coming up whereas Solana has come down hard. But why is Solana's price chart like this? Where is the structure inside Solana? To do that, just put the indicator from the monthly service into play, and you can see at the 146.60 mark, there was overhead structural resistance that rejected price, came through, structurally rejected, rejected again, and then around that 144.62 mark, it rejected also. We're also coming into a lighter level of structural support literally at the current price, which is 142.53. Knowing what your structural levels are, that's so incredibly vital. If you were just looking at Solana like this and you didn't have any concept on structure, well, let's just show what that would look like. We'll just turn the structure off. You would be buying here saying this baby is going to the moon, and all of a sudden it crashes back. So you would probably sell. And when it comes up again, if you were there and you were buying, you would just say, oh, it's going to go for it. but you never knew that structure was playing a very dastardly role, a very bad role, a very evil role through that area and causing Solana to fail and fail and fail. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of rules. Please let me know which CTKS rule applies to this scenario. If you're new on your journey through CTKS structure, please check out a particular video. When people first start off, they're completely dependent on the news and other people's signals. You get your news and signals from the charts. You get it from structural resistance and structural support levels. Of course, doing the cheat sheet is vitally important, as is having your three-dimensional thinking on at all times. Please always remember that the news is always backwards looking. Price has to have done what it did for the news to be written on that particular price. By the time it's published into the financial media, it's probably not only out of date, but misleading. Why is that the case? Are the news reporters trying to be a problem? Absolutely not. It's just that price moves in waves. Even in an uptrend, it's doing something like that. So if it goes up and you buy, you go in here, you buy, it comes down, you sell, you can see that you're buying and selling at the wrong times because you're using a signal that will never ever work for you. Short term, occasionally, sure, it can work, but long term consistently, it will not work. In fact, it's even worse than that. If price is coming down like this, the financial media will get very, very end of the world-ish. And that is exactly the point where price starts to turn around. But you will be nowhere near the market because you would have been scared to death. And it's exactly the same at the top. When there's so much positive news, everybody pops in around the top. Therefore, please look at structure. It is the absolute game changer. There's a really good video for you to watch, which is the Price Action Masterclass. It's an absolute champion of a video. It will help to explain so many things if you're new to the method. And if you want to profit from CTKS structure, just do the profiting course. But there are so many free resources just available from ctksmethod.org. Please make sure you at least on the start download the free cheat sheet. It is an absolute game changer. You already know junk bonds is coming into overhead structural resistance. You know so many things. It will take you time to understand it, but you'll get there. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.